Well, good afternoon. This is Sharon from Books Blooms Bread, and this is a recap, or basically 6 books out of the 32 that I read in 2024. I am not a super fast reader. I do like to kind of really get into my books and enjoy and savor them. That being said, I also had a couple of times last year where I was just in a reading funk, and I don't know how many books I started and didn't finish them. There's bookmarks all over in them, and I just, for whatever reason, wasn't there. And then finally picked up a book, and all was well, and got reading again. So I selected 6 of the books that I read last year, and just thought I would share them with you. The entire list is on booksbloomsbread.com. However, I just thought I would go over these 6, and then I'll start talking about some series that I follow and read that I really enjoy, and some books that I'm planning on reading, and what I've already started for 2025. I can't believe we're only, I think it's 5 days in now. This is Sunday. So anyways, the first one is The Mysterious Affair at Styles, and one cannot have a reading list without Dame Agatha in there. This is Poirot's inaugural mystery that he solves, and you're introduced to him and Hastings and the typical English country house murder. I just really enjoyed it. I don't think I can really go wrong with Agatha Christie. I have to say I am a huge Miss Marple fan. That is always just, she's my absolute favorite, but I really do enjoy Poirot. And in particular, reading this, and because I've watched so many of the episodes with David Suchet, as you're reading this now, I picture him kind of twiddling along with his smart little outfit and his shoes and his cane, walking along. But just a great mystery, fun, and I think it would be enjoyable, and you really can't go a year without reading Agatha Christie. So the other book, or another book that I wanted to talk about, was The Address by Fiona Davis, and this is set at the Dakota Hotel in New York City. And for many of you, you will just know the Dakota, or at least I knew the Dakota, as that was where John Lennon was murdered. So this is set in the late 19th century. A woman, Sarah Smith, comes from England and becomes the head housekeeper at this hotel. And she becomes involved with the architect, who's married and has a family. And as you can imagine, probably no good comes of that. And then additionally, there's a dual timeline, and there's a woman in the 86, and her name is Bailey. And she is staying at the Dakota as well, having come off a rough patch in her life. And she's heard about this mad woman that lived in the hotel 100+ years ago. So she's trying to find some more information. I just thought it was a really good book. I had never read Fiona Davis before. I was first introduced to her, other than seeing her on a library bookshelf, listening to a podcast, I think by Doug Blunt, Dedicated, and just thought she sounded like a rather interesting author, and I like the premise of her stories taking place at landmarks in New York City. So this was the first time I've read Fiona Davis, and I will definitely be reading her again. And thirdly, I finished up the year reading A Single Thread by Tracy Chevalier. You probably know her as I think it was The Woman with the Pearl Earring, and Remarkable Creatures. She's written scores of books. I've just read 2, this being the second, and I really enjoyed this. This was set in Southwest England during, I believe it's the interwar years, and our main character, Violet Speedwell, is one of those quote-unquote surplus women. After World War I, so many men had died, there were not enough men for women to marry. And so it left them, either they lost a boyfriend or a husband or lover, or However, and they were spending the rest of their days, maybe they found a gentleman later, or they took care of family, and just a very different life. It's amazing how World War I impacted society in general, all the way across the planet. But I digress. Anyways, she has to get away from her mother, who's just very irascible and demanding, and moves up to Winchester, and she gets involved with the embroiderers, and they do embroidery, and they embroider the cushions and the kneelers for the Winchester Cathedral. So it's just really interesting. She meets women, she makes some friends, she starts finding herself in this process. And additionally, she meets a gentleman who is a bell ringer at the cathedral. And I don't know how many of you have seen shows where they show the ringers and they've got the long ropes. And so you learn a little bit about bell ringing as well. So ultimately, she finds herself. And it's really a good story. So I highly recommend this book for anybody who wants to read a good historical fiction. Now this book, I always keep mispronouncing or saying it incorrectly because my brain doesn't want to. It's Murder and the Moggies of Magpie Row by Kate High. I picked this up in a charity shop in England in November. It's just so much fun. There's 4 books in the series. I'm not sure, I believe this might be number 4, but I'm not 100% sure. But it's set, Clarice, the main character, runs an animal rescue, and in this particular story, a gentleman, Peter, who takes care of the stray cats, he lives in a row of old cottages that now have different people living in them. And he dies, and it's kind of mysterious, and you start finding out about the neighbors, and then there's a second death, and it's definitely obvious that's murder. So you sort of follow along with this and the characters and the family, and she does some sleuthing, and her husband's a detective, and it's just a great cozy mystery series. I really enjoyed it. It was a great traveling book. I couldn't wait at night when kind of out after been out and about all day tootling around. It was nice to curl up with this book. So I definitely recommend Kate High, Murder and the Moggies of Magpie Road. And additionally, a book I really enjoyed last year is A Dog's Life by Peter Mayle. He wrote A Year in Provence, and this is also written about him and his wife Time. They're in France, and this dog shows up. And it's written from the dog's perspective, and I believe also his. I read it this summer. It's just lovely. I mean, there's even little drawings in here. And at this point, actually, I think it's right about here where his first owner does something that is just really unkind to him. And ultimately, he finds his way to his new home, and life turns out really well for him. But there are definitely some adventures with this dog. And I just enjoyed it. It's a lovely short book, and one that sort of reminds you that a lot of times some animals can be a little nicer than some human beings. And last but not least, I'm going to talk about an Anne Cleeves. This is a Vera Stanhope mystery. I don't know if any of you watch Vera on TV. I'm actually in mourning because this is the last season of the series. It's just phenomenal. But this one, I recognized when I picked the book up, the story from watching it on TV, but there was so much more to it. It's very atmospheric. It's very dark. It's very Anne Cleeves. If you've also watched any or read any of the Shetland books, they're very much in the same vein. She just has this way of transporting you. This one, there's 2 murders. A young man is found. His mom comes home, finds him dead in a bathtub. And then additionally, there's a second murder of a woman, probably early 20s, that's found in a tidal pool, and I believe there's flowers floating around her. So it's an involvement of a group of friends that have known each other for years, and the dynamics and the secrets that are going on between these friends. And Vera is quintessential Vera and pretty dogged and determined. And just in all, I really enjoyed it. I have another one of the Vera books to read that is sitting on the shelf, so I'll probably be starting that soon, hopefully. But anyways, these were 6 of the books that I read in 2024, and from this point forward, I'll probably be focusing on some of the ones I want to read and some of the series that are really interesting and think would be enjoyable. So thank you very much for spending your time with me, and have a great day.